And at 10, Freddy in the bathroom. Freddy is in an odd situation when you look at things from an outsider's perspective. Sure, we know he likes to hide from the camera, and technically these robots have no sense of biological sex, but like, come on, Freddy. You should know not to hide in the girl's bathroom no matter what, unless you want to get cancelled. However, that's not the scary part. Even though AI sentient enough to have that kind of crisis coming was pretty damn terrifying. The scary part is that what if we've been wrong this whole time? What if Chica isn't the only girl in the series? If Freddy is also a female, this could flip everything on its head. If we can't even understand who Freddy is meant to be, can we really trust anything we know about the series? We thought Scott threw a curveball when he added himself canonically into the games, but what would happen if Freddy was female? Oh boy, I'm having an existential crisis now. And 9 scrapped features. It turns out FNAF had a whole load of features planned that were never actually implemented fully or that were changed last minute. I talked about how Freddy was only meant to jump scare you after you lost power in another video, and I talked about a few others in different FNAF lists. If you guys want a whole list on scrapped FNAF features, let me know in the comments. Is it something that people would actually want because it's something that I want to do? Or is it more so something that I do just to talk about things and change things up, because we're kind of running out of FNAF lists. If you have any ideas, let me know. When I look at these features that I want to keep hidden for the purposes of another list, if you want it at least, I can only imagine how different the game would be if they had added these things like alarms for every hour, or animatronics coming down other hallways. It would have changed the game and potentially made it worse for wear. Number 8, Afton's Flesh. In Five Nights at Freddy's 3, we were introduced to the character known as Springtrap, the golden spring-locked bodysuit with William Afton barely clinging to life inside. He has been poked and prodded more than people who claim to have been abducted by aliens, and while he is still alive, it appears as if he's just been rotting away, or hell, even just gotten his skin torn off when the spring lock's activated, resulting in him getting spiked in multiple places, but still somehow surviving. In some of the scenes/menus we can get in Five Nights 3, we can actually see that this is the case, as we get a close look at Springtrap with his mouth open, revealing the hardly living body of William Afton inside. His skin has been peeled off from the looks of it, or it is at least extremely raw, but no mistake, that is old Willie Afton sitting in that suit. This can be seen regularly and there's no need to really do anything specific to see it, but it does require a keen eye, and I can tell you I never noticed it. I can't even see the ketchup when it's right in front of me, let alone something hidden underneath a golden spring bodysuit. And at 7, golden background. FNAF 3 introduced the mechanic of needing to make repairs. Maybe the ventilation got shut down, or the audio was corrupted, or maybe the camera stopped working. And if any of this happens, the player needs to reboot that system. While you do this, the cameras you see are just static. However, sometimes the static can sometimes show the face of Golden Freddy. Like, dude, I know times are tough having to deal with like 15 missing children at this point, but there's no need to turn into a cam girl. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Oh crap. I'm not getting out of the semi. No matter what, it is indeed possible to see the face of Golden Freddy in the static. It's not clear, it does take some keen observation, but it's quite subtle. But once you see it, you will never be the same. Mostly because you'll have seen it, and that means that you will have changed, because before, you hadn't seen it. Logic. And at 6, the Hidden Skull. Man, FNAF 3 has a lot going for it, doesn't it? The FNAF 3 minigames are honestly the main game of FNAF 3. You gotta play them to get the right combo of numbers to dial into a brick wall, then you gotta click the toy Bonnie on your desk to get the glitch minigames, and then you need to put 5 kids to rest in order to get the good canon ending to the game. However, if you really pay attention during the free roam minigames, if you head to the supply closet, somewhere I don't believe that Shadow Freddy brings you, you can see the same supply room from the first game. However, going off script doesn't help you just to see a nostalgic location. Actually, it can reveal something even more sinister in the form of a child's skull on the shelf in the background. Yeah, in a series all about missing children, we get one of their skulls right behind us as we head up to be dismantled by the purple guy. I mean, I guess we're the dead child in this scenario, because we've already possessed the animatronic. So does that mean that it's our skull, and that's why we don't pay attention to it? Or is it because we were killed, so we know it would be there? Halfway through at number 5, nicknames. The news clippings at the end of the FNAF games always focus on one article. The place getting shut down, the place reopening, the place burning down, and in the first 2 FNAF games, the stories on the outside weren't actual articles. It was just some random text meant to fill up the space. It's commonly referred to as lorem ipsum, at least it was when I was in school. However, in FNAF 3, Scott decided to include some of the story of him creating the games for the fans with the more powerful glasses in the world. One article talks about how his last attempt at becoming a game designer was a toss-up between a remake of his first game, a sequel to another one of his games called Desolate Hope, and an entirely new game about animatronics and pizza. He went with the latter obviously, and that was probably the best decision he ever made. However, later on he also reveals that the iconic names of Bonnie, Chica, Freddy, and Foxy were just nicknames he had in development. He would call them that before actually coming up with their real names. However, after calling them that for so long, he grew attached to the names and ended up keeping them. Probably another good decision if I'm being honest. Can you imagine what it would be like if Bonnie was named like Albert or something? Actually, that would be scarier. And at 4, paper plates. Let's take a break from FNAF 3. In FNAF 2, on one of the cams, you can see 3 paper plate crafts that resemble the 3 main animatronics. Sometimes, though, they can take on a mind of their own. At least the Bonnie one does. It can sometimes not appear on the camera view and then just later appear in your office. How did it get there? Who placed it there? Was it an animatronic? If it was, why didn't they attack us? Was it a phantom animatronic? Can they even do that? Is this plate animatronic possessed? Was a kid stuffed into the paper plate bag? Like, I know this is a horror game, but like, come on! Nobody else is working there at the time, and so how the hell did this thing move? Oh, and also it could have happened in FNAF 3 too. It was a short one, but it was a break nonetheless. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, family portrait. Family is everything to a lot of people, and while Scott was stuck in a job he didn't prefer and kept failing at making it in the career he really wanted, I can't speak for him personally, but I'm sure his family was helping him get through it. His wife and kids I'm sure are one of, if not the reason he woke up in the morning, so in honor of them and to get some more assets for the game, he used their images wherever he could. Particularly in FNAF 4's hallway, all the pictures on the wall are Scott and his family, and in Ultimate Custom Night, the face of the one you should not have killed is a picture of his son with the contrast cranked to the max. Family is so important, and Scott both honored them and immortalized them in his games by incorporating their family pictures into them, which is so sweet and honestly touching. Something that you don't expect to get from a FNAF game. Man, if only he treated MatPat like that. And ultimately, at number 2, living proof. Let's take another break from FNAF 3. Okay, that's enough. In FNAF 3's minigames, we see the story of how Springtrap came to be. We see Afton dismantle the animatronics and then unintentionally release the spirits of the dead children, who then come to spook him or get an apology. I don't know what the ghosts of 5 dead kids are gonna do aside from keep you in hell for all eternity until you escape by mind melding with VR video game testers. Anyway, as we see from the game, Afton gets scared by the spirits and then runs into his spring bodysuit to feel more powerful, probably hoping it would scare them because it was this character that killed them in the first place. However, thanks to the water dripping in from the outside, coupled with Afton's haste, he ends up getting snapped by spring locks and collapses. I've seen many comments over the months we've been talking about FNAF where people say that this is where Afton died. This honestly has never sat well with me. I always believed he was alive in the suit, and now I know why. In this scene, we never see him stop moving. Sure, he could have died and possessed Springtrap like some have suggested, but if that was the case, he would have stopped moving. He also wouldn't have eyes that are full of life like he does in the Springtrap suit, since, as I said before, we can see his flesh inside and those eyes are clearly his. Afton doesn't die in this moment, hence why I don't consider Springtrap an animatronic, because Afton is still alive and consciously controlling him. Afton himself is living proof that Afton never dies. MatPat even said it himself in his theory on that game. He said, "Notice he never stops moving." That's because he isn't dead. He only dies in Pizzeria Simulator after being lured back by Henry and being set ablaze, damning him to hell. Finally, in number 1, Butterfingers. On the main stage in FNAF 1, we see 3 animatronics, Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica. When we leave the camera or it decides to cut out for a moment, we can see Bonnie leave, and then Chica, and then Freddy doesn't leave until like night 4 or something, right? Well, as the animatronics leave the main stage, they drop their iconic item. Bonnie loses his guitar, Freddy loses his microphone, and Chica loses her cupcake. Why? Where did they go? Do they just leave them on the stage? Did it make it more intimidating? I need answers, Scott. Senpai noticed me. Both Scott and MatPat. And at 9, Vanny glitches. During the scenes focusing on the individual animatronics on the elevator, there is text that shows up between each shot. These say when fear takes hold and reality fails, the stage is set and insanity prevails. Each line of text glitches onto the screen, but within those glitches are hidden images of the antagonist of this game, none other than Vanny, the reluctant follower of William Afton. There are 2 images that are shown, one of her looking to the left and the other of her looking towards the center. The eyes that linger over these glitches also always appear above her head. Having these images be glitches on the screen obviously is a reference to Glitch Trap, and having eyes above her head is symbolic of being watched. So could Glitch Trap be watching her through these animatronics, making sure she's doing her job? They all have red eyes after all. Only time will tell. And it is Shadow Bonnie. During the scene where we see the first alcove containing the animatronics, we see Chica rocking on her guitar. Firstly, this appears to be the home of the animatronics while they're not working or during the night. But no matter how dumb that is from an AI perspective, there is another thing that is slightly odd about this little room. There seems to be some form of microphone or perhaps some other electronic attached to her desk that, while having a light directly on it, is still pitch black. It is also in the rough shape of Shadow Bonnie as they appeared in FNAF 2. It's not perfect, but it's still noticeable if you're looking for it. This could be a coincidence or a nice nod to a character that will be appearing in this game, like how Scott made Chica's party world for Sister Location. And it's 7 Cupcake. Also in front of that same alcove, we can see a few frames of Chica's famous cupcake in a display case, almost like it's a museum, or perhaps a memoriam to the old design of Chica that they had to abandon for this establishment, or because the fans love the cupcake and would be furious if it wasn't here in some capacity. There looks to be a plaque on the front of the display as well, indicating that maybe it's a bit of a showcase for the cupcakes and perhaps its history with the character of Chica. Maybe the Fazbear Entertainment Company is trying to push sugary foods less, or maybe they just want to get rid of the cupcakes since it was involved with a version of Chica that was possessed by the soul of a child after Afton offered them more pizza. Maybe this whole area is dedicated to ensuring the reign of Afton never comes back. Good luck with that. Someone didn't listen to him when he says he always comes back, and obviously someone didn't look at the final shot of that trailer. And at 6, the eyes. There is a scene where we are running through maybe what can be thought of as a maintenance tunnel probably below the Pizzaplex. We don't know if anything is chasing us, but we can guess so since this shows over the line they won't stop hunting you, none of them will stop hunting you, suggesting that we are in fact being chased. Now at the very beginning of the scene to the left of the screen, on the very edge we see some lights. However, as our character runs, the fence or railing beside us cuts that light into 2 separate dots, very reminiscent of the eyes of good old Golden Freddy, the one who will not rest torturing Afton's soul in hell. While this may just be a coincidence, we know Scott doesn't do that sort of thing. There were probably multiple shots of this scene and he would have chosen this one because of that tiny detail. That may have been a mistake, but now I can't unsee it. Halfway through at number 5, design change. This is something I didn't notice until I went into the comments of that trailer. In the summer of 2020, Funko leaked the designs of the action figures for Security Breach, thus leaking the designs of the animatronics. People were pissed about this, obviously, since Scott had specifically told Funko not to release anything. What is it with Funko and leaks? Anyway, the designs of the characters from the gameplay trailer are actually slightly different to those of the action figures that were released. This is most notable on Roxanne's clothes, where Scott moved the black star shapes, and on Monty's guitar, where he removed or made the black stripes smaller. At least from what I can see. Chica's guitar is also a lighter blue and mostly white, as opposed to white and a darker blue from the original action figure. And the animatronics in the trailer are properly proportioned. The action figure heads just weird me out. Like, the pop figures are fine because it's meant to be that way, it makes sense, but the action figures, it's weird. And at 4, Bellora's theme. Over the footage of us being shown the individual animatronics of Chica, Roxanne, and Monty, we hear some music that would potentially be triggering to fans who played Sister Location. Here's the clip. This is very reminiscent of Bellora's theme from Sister Location, not the song she sings, but rather her theme music that has no lyrics. This is more of a remixed version of the song instead of the original, but it could be a hint at something much more. Like Vanny says at the end of the trailer, there is more going on here than you realize. It then cuts to something else, and that makes us think that that's what's going on, that's more, but we realize that. So what if this truly means this could be in the introduction of William Afton's wife? Bellora is used as an allegory for his wife, not being possessed. Bellora isn't possessed, but just as a mother figure to the mini-Renas and even kind of Baby if you look at it that way. And if you do, the connection only grows since Baby is possessed by Elizabeth Afton, William's daughter, or was. We don't know what happened to his wife, she has no official name. Some think she died naturally and that drove him to killing, some think William killed her, others think she ran away after learning about what William does. Maybe we will learn more about her in this game. Maybe she is indeed the security guard. Maybe her name is Vanessa. Maybe it's just because that music is creepy. Who knows? Getting close to the end in number 3, staff only. Near the end of the trailer, before the Security Breach logo, we see Vanny pop out from behind a door labeled staff only, indicating that she is a staff member. But why is staff an acronym? The term staff is used in many different ways, as a plural noun, adjective, and even a verb. But none of those uses use the term like an acronym. In fact, when I searched for the acronym, even with quotation marks, nothing came up. So this is definitely something odd. What could this acronym stand for? And is there actually a meaning behind it, or or is Scott just giving us a red herring? Let me know your theories down below. Penultimately in at number 2, purple. The color purple is everywhere in this trailer, no doubt a connection to the purple guy himself, William Afton. The trailer starts off with him speaking, and then he is present throughout the whole trailer. There is purple in nearly every shot, and if there isn't, it's a color that makes purple, blue or red. Plenty of the neon lights are purple. Purple is a common secondary color throughout the Pizzaplex. Even the logo that shines on the wall is purple. Chica's playpen has plenty of purple. The Pizzaplex alcoves have purple. Chica's guitar is purple. Roxanne's leg warmers are either a dark purple or blue, but she's also wearing a red shirt. Monty's gloves and shoes are purple. The only animatronic that doesn't seem to have purple on them is Freddy. Maybe this indicates that he isn't under Afton's control. Everything in this trailer for the most part is related to the color purple. The logo is red and the text is glowing blue. Not to mention the ending with, finally, and at number 1, the arm. The final shot of this trailer is clearly a reference to William Afton. I know you noticed that, but what you might have missed, however, is the reflecting purple light that we can see in the reflection of his arm, throwing any theory that this is the Stitch Wraith out the window. At least, maybe. The arm also appears to have been melted at some point, or has had something melted onto it, like flesh perhaps, or the remains of a suit that caught fire after being lured there by your son and your former business partner. And a 10 Nightmare. One thing that was mentioned when we first saw it, but more so forgotten, is the complexity of the security logbook. It messed with everything we knew about the series, but then messed with everything we thought we knew about the logbook itself. One of the key things that sticks out to me is the fact that Mike drew Nightmare on page 41. Those were just an illusion, which we know thanks to the Ultimate Custom Night's death voice lines from characters like Nightmare Freddy, who said this time there is more than an illusion to fear. And I am given flesh to be your tormentor. So, how could Mike know what Nightmare looks like? Crying Child was in a coma while he was seeing them, so he couldn't have described them, especially in that much detail. Where did he get it from? And at 9, FNAF World Hell. FNAF World is a game I'm sure we'd all like to forget. However, what I'm seeing again and again is the importance of this game from a lore standpoint, both from the Helpy Facts lists as well as this one. From the Helpy Facts list, Helpy looks very similar to the style of the characters from FNAF World, and I propose that he could be a crossover character, linking the two games together in an unexpected way as an example of how you can escape a game world. But now I've seen that the characters of Tangle, White Rabbit, and Bounce Pot can all appear in Ultimate Custom Night, in motion using their battle animations. This not only links the game to the main FNAF canon, but also shows that William's idea of entering a video game and escaping from one came from FNAF World, a game that revolves around a game affecting the real world. And it ain't blood on the cover. The security logbook is a real point of contention for the series. Whatever, I'm not talking about what's inside the book content-wise. I'm talking about how there are literal pages covered or splattered with blood, and the restaurant just gave it to you as if nothing was wrong. What the hell happened to cause blood to get all over this thing? And thanks to the finish on the blood on the cover, at least the hardcover version, it's shiny, meaning it must be new. And I'm prone to nosebleeds, but I know that that is not a nosebleed. You don't lose that much blood. Well, unless you're me, but that's because I have veins that poke out of my nose, okay? I had to get the cauterized in elementary school, which means I had to get like 20 small burns on my nose in each side, okay? It was a mess. But not even that would generate this much blood. So why is it covered in blood? We see coffee stains, that makes sense, but blood? And why are they only mentioning that someone else wrote in the book, not bled all over it? That's not sanitary. And at 7, payoff. There has been a lot of crap that goes down in these restaurants. Missing kids, murder, animatronics that they felt needed access to a crime database to scan everyone that comes into the restaurant that ended up failing. But even after all of this, no lawsuits or anything? We saw papers talking about the missing children's incident, but nothing about lawsuits. The company shut down to downsize, but we've seen no evidence of a lawsuit or arrests. Sure, they had an investigation, but not a good one when there was obvious dead body stench coming from the animatronics. I don't care how sweaty and gross these kids and this pizza is, nothing would make it smell that bad normally. This to me indicates some form of a payoff at the very least, like maybe William has the police in his pocket, or a deal with someone saying that if he finds the key to living forever, that he shares it and he gets away. There has to be something more here. If I was a parent, I wouldn't stop until my kid had found justice. Like, where did these 15 kids' parents go? And at 6, performance. It has been stated before that the voice actor for William Afton, P.J. Hayward, based his performance for the character off of Anthony Hopkins' version of Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, who, if you didn't know, is a cold-blooded cannibal serial killer in the movie. So bad that he's behind a full glass wall instead of bars, so he won't bite your face off. What if this is for more reasons than just being creepy? I mean, no body, no crime, right? If William was eating the kids his robots were trapping, it could cause them enough agony to create more remnant, and more remnant means more studying for the mad scientist, and one step closer to the answer to immortality. He didn't take killing kids off the table, something that most people in prison will even kill you for if that's why you're thrown into the slammer, so eating them isn't really too much of a stretch for this guy. Maybe it started off with him thinking that that's how he was going to get the answer. I mean, he originally stuffed them into the stomachs of the animatronics, right? Halfway through number 5, exotic butters. The security logbook is really appearing a lot in this video, and that's because in the hype for Security Breach, we've forgotten all about the that is this book. Not only does Mike draw Nightmare in the book, a representation of Crying Child's death, he also draws things connecting him to other games, like exotic butters and baskets of money from Sister Location, or a gravestone seemingly similar to the ones from FNAF 6's gravestone ending, or the casual bongos from Sister Location, and a Freddy Fazbear logo with blood surrounding Freddy's mouth, like how Crying Child got chomped, or spooky animatronics and ghost sheets, which could be a reference to the missing children's incident from the first game, since FNAF VR's Curse of Dreadbear DLC wasn't out yet. And this is ironically on the same page as the maze, like the corn maze from that game. And why is there a picture of mangled up Chica on the very last page of this book? So many damn questions that we just forgot about thanks to the new game. It's exactly what he wanted. And at 4, Nightmare voice line. In Ultimate Custom Night, you can fight off Nightmare, and his voice lines when he kills you can really prove what we've all been thinking. Well, most of us. Or some of us. I don't really know the ratio to Wilhelm versus Micatory believers in the comments. Nightmare's voice lines include, "You will not be spared, you will not be saved," indicating that someone has been spared or saved before. But from what? Well, this next line tells us, "I am your wickedness made of flesh." And who out of Mike and William is wicked? William, the killer of the series. His wickedness is killing, therefore Nightmare would be William's desire to kill personified. He also says, "The shadow fears me," and until this point I didn't know if he meant death or William himself. However, I think that this proves he means William, since the purple guy is the shadow of a man. William either fears his own desire to kill, or he fears the fact that it took his children from him, both Elizabeth and Crying Child. And to further prove this is William, Nightmare says, "I am here to claim what is left of you," since he was burnt to a crisp in FNAF 6's fire. So there isn't really much left, just like how his wickedness came to claim Crying Child. And at 3, debunked. On April 1st of the year or the year after it was released, Scott added Nightmare Freddy, Foxy, and Phone Guy to Ultimate Custom Night. Each of their mechanics was based on a debunked FNAF theory. Most interestingly, Nightmare Freddy's mechanics were based off of Dream Theory, proving that these games are actually happening and it's not a dream, which makes everything more complicated because now, God, we have to figure this out properly and can't just go around saying it was all a dream. Anyway, the Dream Theory along with Foxy being helpful and the Phone Guy being Purple Guy were all confirmed 100% false at this point, resulting in a whole lot more issues for the series because I can't just say that it was all a dream. Even if I wasn't doing it before, now I can't do it ever. Only FNAF 4 was a dream. It was like a coma dream. Great. And at 2, hallucinations. Some believe that there are 2 spirits possessing the security logbook, and that one of them is Crying Child. But I believe that these altered texts aren't another spirit, since it wouldn't make much sense for the 2 spirits to communicate in different ways, one using faded text and the other one altering what was already in the book, which seems very difficult to me. I believe that these are hallucinations that we're seeing from Mike's perspective. He writes in the book in red ink, and that's established early on. But by the end of the book, Mike is incredibly tired and stressed, as indicated by the incident logs on page 108. Something happened at 8:11, but we don't know if it was AM or PM. Considering how we don't start our shifting game until late, we can assume AM. However, we wouldn't get to work at exactly 12, he'd be there beforehand. And if he was having to fight off animatronics all night, he would certainly be stressed. Stress and fatigue would certainly cause hallucinations, and even if we aren't seeing this from Mike's perspective, we would be seeing it from ours. Maybe this is where Michael got the idea to use the name Mike in the first game. Maybe by reading this, we are Michael Afton learning about who we are. This could be where we get the idea to go to Sister Location, or it could be just before our father contacts us to go do so. Finally, in at number 1, death by Afton. So many people in the series die because of William Afton. Obviously, he's the killer, the catalyst, the one who started it all. However, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Well, at least when she's possessed a robot. Remember FNAF World's original ending, the introduction of Baby? Well, she ended up killing Henry, the man who's sitting at the desk. We know this is Henry because, well, he says he made Baby and can't deactivate her, but he ended up getting killed. William wasn't dead at this point, and Henry was the only other one who could have helped in the creation of Baby. He did so not knowing what William was planning, I'm sure, but then Baby kills him. Now, Circus Baby's Pizza World was shut down after one day because of what it did to Elizabeth, so this would most likely take place after that, meaning that Elizabeth was inside Baby when she killed Henry. Elizabeth Afton, the sweet little girl who got too close to Baby, took Henry's life. It's kind of poetic when you think about it. Henry's daughter was taken by William, and Henry was taken by William's daughter. And 10, the Bite of 87. The Bite of 87 is one of the biggest contention points in the whole FNAF series. It makes some theories, breaks others, and has been debated since the very first game when we learned about this very mysterious incident. However, we've never really been able to determine who caused the bite. It's typically thought to be Jeremy who got bit, but who did the biting? Some think Mangle, others think Fredbear, and some think Toy Chica. And some think Chica thanks to Ultimate Custom Night, which honestly just outright tells us who caused the bite if you listen to Toy Chica's death lines. One of which being, "Where's my beak?" Lodged in your forehead, of course.
Where's my beak? Lodged in your forehead, of course.
Which is where the frontal lobe is located, which is the part of the brain removed in the Bite of 87. This could also allude to Scott's clue on MatPat's FNAF livestream that said, why would Toy Chica be missing her beak? And it would be because she caused the Bite of 87, and without the beak, she couldn't hurt anyone else. Like how I keep saying my pug can't really hurt anyone because he can't fit his flat mouth around you unless you willingly like give him a finger or something. I don't know why he scares people. And the 9, Scrap Trap. What the hell happened to Springtrap between games to cause such warps? Sure, he was burnt in FNAF 3, but we've seen him alive and well and not damaged in Sister Location's Night 7 ending cutscene, so where did all this additional damage and warping come from? The head becomes larger and so do the feet. I genuinely don't know how this would make sense. We know they're the same person thanks to Ultimate Custom Night's voice lines, but I'm so confused as to what could have happened. I'm sure the extra damage comes from fending off wild animals, since you know, he's a body that would attract scavengers, but how did the head of the suit get bigger? It's not like it evolved. My only guess is that William either broke into some Fazbear warehouse like the one he visits in the Man in Room 1280, or he made a new one to try to protect him better, since we see extensive damage and I don't really know how much time there is between Sister Location and Pizzeria Simulator, so like, he could have been out there for a while. And at 8, Ballora. FNAF Ultimate Custom Night really has a lot of lore hints and clues for us, so it will be appearing a lot on this list and in other lists in the future, I'm sure. I'm just now starting to understand the importance of this game for all of FNAF lore. One of these clues, however, is one of Ballora's death lines from Ultimate Custom Night. After killing you, Ballora will on occasion say, "These are strange circumstances that have brought us together."
These are strange circumstances that have brought us together.
And I'm sorry, but based on her other lines, I don't think she's just talking about how they're in hell or in purgatory. I think that this is about how they met. Well, how William and the woman that Ballora represents met. In a previous video, I theorized that maybe Vlad and Clara from Immortal and the Restless perhaps represent William and Henry's wife. A scandalous affair that drove him into killing Charlotte so that he could be with her, since she would have no ties to Henry anymore. But I wasn't sure of it. But honestly, those would be strange circumstances that could have brought them together. I mean, maybe he didn't kill Charlotte to be with her, but killing Charlotte drove her away from Henry into the arms of another man. Williams, perhaps. I mean, she asks, why do you hide inside your walls? Maybe she's talking to Henry and not William. And it's 7, Stranger Danger. Ultimate Custom Night has some funny lines and moments. Comedy gold in the form of Mr. Hippo's death lines, or rather speeches about Lemonade, and Happy Frog and her ninja skills. However, one of the most iconic and funny lines has to come from Ned Bear. I don't know why these animatronics go so hard in this game, but whatever. Not only does he joke about being killed by obscure secondary characters, but he also just yells Stranger Danger.
Stranger Danger!
I think it's funny and a nice detail because, well, that's the one line that could have saved countless lives. But instead, the kids followed Golden Bonnie to the back room for more pizza, and instead of getting stuffed crust, they got stuffed into a suit. Literally, Stranger Danger would have saved their little lives, but they didn't listen to their parents. It's a shame, really, and it's kind of nuts of me to think that this is funny, but I mean, it is. Ned Bear is the only one thinking straight in this world, and I am here for it. I stan Ned Bear. Ned's Declassified Pizzeria Survival Guide. Scott, get the rights and make it a thing. And at 6, the one you should not have added. Scott has added a whole load of characters into the series, so much so that there are too many characters for my taste in Ultimate Custom Night. But some of the characters he's added are a little too familiar for him, and it could have lore implications that we don't know about yet. Firstly, Scott added himself into FNAF lore. Sure, it's not him, it's not Scott Cawthon, but he is the face of the indie game developer that made some games about the tragedies in the FNAF world. He used a picture of himself when he could have used anyone, hell, a stock photo, or even nobody. Then we have Cassidy, the one you should not have killed. This one is Scott's son, as confirmed by Scott himself in either a Reddit or Steam post, I don't quite remember which, meaning that Scott's son, in universe, is dead. Yikes. And he also added the rest of his family, just subtly, since all the FNAF 4 pictures of family or kids that are visible in the hallways are of his family, since you didn't have to pay for any stock images or anything, as confirmed by Scott in the same post I referred to earlier, addressing the one you should not have killed. The one you should not have added, since now they're technically dead. Get it now? Halfway through number 5, final moments. Something seems off to me about this game. Why would William be tortured in hell by a version of himself? That version of course being Scrap Trap. And I think it's an issue that multiple people have, and why the whole mic trap thing is so popular. Well, this is probably William's life just flashing before his eyes. Every animatronic in this game William has had something to do with. He was there in FNAF 6, he was Scrap Trap, he created the animatronics and the sister location animatronics, he caused the nightmare animatronics to be created in the mind of Crying Child. This is basically his whole life flashing before his eyes, but not in order, all at once. Torturing him for his misdeeds and the horrible things he's done. Maybe he regrets it and that's why he shows up as well. Or maybe he only regrets losing his children. Hence why all his version says is I always come back, since he hopes his children could do the same, or wishes they could. And at 4, Wake Up. Nightmarion, or Nightmarionette, whatever you want to call it, is one of the scariest animatronics there is. Added in the Halloween DLC for FNAF 4, Scott deemed him not canon, but he's still here in Ultimate Custom Night, saying I am the dark reflection of what you have created.
I am the fearful reflection of what you have created.
The puppet, since William killed Charlotte who ended up possessing it. But that's not the line I wanted to focus on, we knew that already. What I wanted to acknowledge was the line, "This is a nightmare you won't wake from."
This is a nightmare that you won't wake from.
This is a subtle way of saying that someone woke up from the nightmare before. Like someone may have woken up before, but this is a nightmare you won't wake from. Who would have woken up, you ask? Who else was the only other person to see the nightmare animatronics? Crying Child. Oh wait, same thing. This line also helps prove my point. Crying Child somehow survived or was saved from death, like Nightmare also seems to hint towards, but we heard a flat line at the end of FNAF 4. That's because he was removed from the machine, not because he had died. I'm telling you, it's a thing. Getting close to the end into number 3, FNAF Multiverse. The FNAF multiverse is already a thing. The original novels are their own universe, despite sharing characters and plot points. The Fazbear Frights books are their own universe, even though they help answer other questions that we've had, like Scott said himself when he announced the original 5. And the games are their own universe. But what if the games themselves are multiple universes? There are so many points that conflict with themselves when trying to establish a timeline. Map had decided to put emphasis on the events that were mentioned later in the timeline, but what if they conflict because they're not the same Earth? I mean, we have the FNAF game multiverse thanks to the Fazbear Fanverse initiative Scott started, funding some installments in new fan games and helping them with marketing, retail, and merch. So why not have the games or the events of the games that don't help the timeline take place in another universe? I mean, it would screw up a load of stuff, but it could help explain a load of stuff too. He didn't start a fanverse for no reason. There has to be some sort of tie-in. Ultimately in number 2, Burning. Look, I'm all for setting the souls of the damned free of their chains and letting them move on, but we need to remember the souls that we're dealing with in this series. They're typically kids, right? But doesn't it feel weird knowing what happens when you think of it like that? Sure, we set the kids free in FNAF 3, but we know the Remnant can only be destroyed with fire, and since the kids are still here thanks to the Remnant, we have to burn Fazbear Frights down, causing the fire at the end of the game, but also causing the souls of the victims to be set free. We're burning the kids on the regular in this series. And in FNAF 6 we burn a load of them thanks to Molten Freddy, who's entered, so he has multiple different souls. And the only one who wasn't a kid, William, managed to escape and got sent to the hospital where he would be taken to a Fazbear warehouse so he could possess a hard drive and come back to life again. It's nuts, man. I don't understand why so many kids have to suffer in this series. Scott must not be good with discipline. Or He uses what happens in these games as discipline. Attaboy, Scott, strike fear into their hearts. That's what my dad did. Finally, and at number 1, the real protagonist. Orville the Elephant in Ultimate Custom Night is one of the animatronics that's really memeable. Not as memeable as his counterparts perhaps, but he does give us a lot of information if you're paying attention. Take this one line from Ultimate Custom Night for example. He tried to release you, he tried to release us, but I won't let that happen. I will keep you here, I will hold you here, no matter how many times they burn us.
He tried to release you. He tried to release us. But I'm not gonna let that happen. I will hold you here. I will keep you here. No matter how many times they burn us.
Hold on a second. If this is really the voice of Cassidy, Golden Freddy, speaking through the elephant, then why would they say he tried to release you? He tried to release us. Henry was the one who tried to release William in FNAF 6, we know this from his end speech, and we know that's the one that Cassidy is referring to since they said I won't let that happen, which is why they're doing it at that exact moment. But we thought that Michael was the one who released the spirits of the kids in FNAF 3, which is where Golden Freddy has their happiest day. Could it be that we've been playing as Henry this whole time with the exception of Sister Location? I mean, we didn't release any souls in Sister Location. That would mean Henry is Mike Schmidt, and that the Mike who owned the logbook would be Henry, and that we'd be reading it as Michael Afton? This may deserve its own video. Holy crap, this could change everything. In its 10 animatronic bite, we all know the story of FNAF 4's 8-bit minigames and cutscenes, where Crying Child ends up getting chomped in the mouth of the Fredbear animatronic thanks to his older brother and his friends putting him in there. I proposed a different idea that not many people seem to appreciate, but thanks to the comments of one Thanos Snap on a previous part, it helped me realize, how did Fredbear manage to crush Crying Child's skull enough to put him in a coma? We originally believed that it was due to a spring lock failure since we saw someone wearing the suit in a previous part, but what we forgot about is that while on stage, Fredbear isn't in suit mode, it's an animatronic, so the spring locks were already all in place, and there wouldn't be any way that it should be able to crush his skull, and the chomping force of the mouth is going to have to be way over regulation to be able to cause the amount of damage we see, and if the suit was capable of that, nobody would wear it. There is no feasible explanation that allows what we see on screen to be the actual scenario where Crying Child dies, so how did this actually happen? And does this go to only further enhance my explanation of this scene? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and maybe we can work this out together. And the 9 Paper Pals. The Paper Pals are a group of paper plate versions of our favorite animatronics. Well, a couple of them. In FNAF 2, we can see paper plate versions of Bonnie, Freddy, and a human-looking one that might possibly be Balloon Boy. And while these may be crafts made by kids at the restaurant, or they might sell kits for you to be able to make these at home, where did the originals come from and how can they move? In FNAF 2, the human-like Paper Pal can actually move from Cam 4, where it's originally found, into the office. And in FNAF 3, the 3 Paper Pals can do the same thing, using this teleporting mechanic seemingly at random. How can they do this? How can paper cutouts teleport between rooms? Is it a hallucination or something else? I don't know, and it terrifies me. Imagine all the paper cuts this thing would give if it jump scared you. Ow. Tail trap. This was mentioned in the comments of one of the Funtime Foxy Facts lists by a user that I could not find the comment of twice, so I apologize. I really need to take note of this stuff. Anyway, the comment suggested that Funtime Foxy's tail could be where its containment chamber for the kids is collected. You know, like the containment chamber for the kids would be in its tail, which is an interesting idea, and it would give a reason as to why Foxy all of a sudden got a tail in Sister Location, but the beginning of the tail is so small that it would have to really squish the kid down to the size of like a Toblerone bar before actually getting to the wider part, so it's unlikely, but still something to think about. And it's 7 Charlie. The original FNAF novel trilogy had a big plot twist at the end. In the FNAF novel The Fourth Closet, it's revealed that the main protagonist, Charlie, was actually the third in a series of 4 robots that were a recreation of Henry's daughter, who was killed at an early point in her life. However, the final version was incomplete and could also switch between looking like a real human, so much so that another character wanted to make Whoopi with them, to looking like Baby, you know, like the actual Baby animatronic, thanks to pins located around Baby's body like we see in the games. I've used this as evidence for another theory before, but we've never stopped to really ask how she's able to look so realistic. And it's a big point, because this is the same argument people use to try and debunk my theory. How does the skin work? In the novels, it's revealed that she actually has fake blood, which makes sense since, you know, if you get cut and you don't bleed, someone's gonna get suspicious. I hope. Which means the skin should be able to bruise. But where did this technology come from? It's so realistic, someone wants to see all of it, yet it's still fake. How is this possible? But more so, it also helps in my theory proving that my scenario is entirely plausible. I'm not moving from my stance that Michael Afton or the Big Brother in the games is a robot version of Crying Child created after Crying Child dies. In whatever happened, because obviously what we see isn't actually what happened. Because, like, there's no way Fredbear chopped it. In its sixth fourth child. A lot of people seem to fixate on Clara from Sister Location's Immortal and the Restless for a proxy for Mrs. Afton, the mother of the Afton kids, since she talks to a vampire meant to represent William, whose name is Vlad. However, the theme of the show is Vlad constantly denying that the baby is his. Clara, the baby isn't mine, even though the baby can turn into a bat and sleeps hanging upside down. But what if there is more to that than just being a proxy for William's wife? Because I doubt Clara would be the name of the character and the name of the mother if William's character is named Vlad. What if this is secretly revealing that William has a fourth child? One that hasn't met a terrible fate yet. One that perhaps William didn't believe was his when his wife told him. So much so that he divorced her on the grounds that she cheated and he got the kids. A simple paternity test would reveal that he is the father, but he could claim that they were faked, like how Vlad denies the child being his, even though it's literally a vampire. And William is well connected, so bringing a trial would be easy cheese. He has to be well connected to not have been, like, actually, like, thrown in prison. There has to be something going on. Now, who could this secret child be? This may be a stretch, but what about Gregory? Unless we go off my theory that in FNAF 1 and 2 we play as Henry, we've only played as characters of the Afton family until FNAF VR potentially. So what if the fourth child is the one we play as in Security Breach, and that's why Vanny is trying to capture him? Or more realistically, what if Vanessa is the child, and that's how William was able to take control of their mind? They're related. Only time will tell. How about we do it at number 5, Premonition? Now, I'm not talking about real psychic powers here, but what if the ending of Security Breach was pointed out to us way before even Sister Location was released? That's right, I'm talking about FNAF 4, baby! The stomach mouths of the animatronics is always assumed to be because Crying Child saw Elizabeth get scooped. But what if it was really foreshadowing the events of games to come? We know that Gregory will hide inside Glamrock Freddy. Perhaps while we're in there in first person, we will watch ourselves get crushed, helpless. That would be fun. However, I want Chica to be the one to step on me. I mean crush me. Yeah. Crush me. And at 4, Gregory. Continuing on Security Breach, what connection does Gregory have with anyone else in this game? I mean, he could be the fourth child, it's unlikely but possible in a way, but how on earth does he have a watch that connects to the security cameras of the place? Does he get it in the security room? And who would leave a piece of tech that would be so useful to anyone they're trying to stop out in the open? Like, ripe for the taking. Was it Vanessa? Does she know she's compromised? I mean, she does in Special Delivery, but is Ness the Vanessa we're thinking of, or is it just a name meant to confuse us? Because Scott's done that before. I don't know anymore. I'm sad. Take the multiple uses of the name Jeremy. What is that, dude? And at 3, Special Delivery. The animatronics from Special Delivery were supposed to be friendly, basically being a nice way for the company to rebuild their image. But then, they send out angry animatronics that try and kill you. Why did they think that was a good idea? And I get that they were hacked by the Afton virus, but there is plenty of sus things going on in this game. Like, why, if the company was trying to rebuild its reputation with these friendly animatronics, have they not shut down the project after I'm sure they've gotten emails and stuff about the animatronics going rogue? And why the absolute hell did they include versions of Springtrap, a character that we know thanks to the man in room 1280, everyone knows is guilty. They have multiple versions of him as well, the normal one, the toxic one, and the curse, which is a recent addition as far as I know. They literally named him the Curse. It's... what? Just remove him from the program. Why would I want to order a literal killer? Is this the same thing as when, like, girls say that serial killers are hot? Because that's also messed up. Like, how am I supposed to compete with that? Actually, there is a solution. I'll be back. And at 2, Just an Illusion. FNAF Sister Location is probably one of the most popular FNAF games to date, with plenty of fan favorites like Funtime Freddy, Foxy, and Baby being added, as well as the new fan art favorite Ballora. However, is what you see really what you get in this particular FNAF game? Well, it's a good question, and you may be thinking, Connor, Of course it is. What are you talking about? You're dumb. And if you are saying that, I'd like to direct you to when we have to repair Funtime Freddy in Sister Location. As we open up his chest cavity, we can see a weird disc, something that's being described in the books as being able to create illusions using sound. And it seems to be flashing red. They call it a power module, but there is no way that that little disc is a power module. And if it's one of those discs, could it be changing the look of everything? Hell, this could have taken place in the basement of a goddamn shack, and we wouldn't know. It's pretty scary to think about. Finally, in at number 1, Mrs. Afton. We don't know the identity of Mrs. Afton. We don't even know if there is a Mrs. Afton, or if she was just a baby mama, or hell, if William's kids are just adopted. Most people draw a connection between Mrs. Afton and Clara from A Moral and the Restless, so much so that people believe Mrs. Afton's name is Clara. However, I propose the idea that could explain what happened to Mrs. Afton, and it makes a great amount of sense. The Fazbear Frights books were meant to help explain bits of the in-game lore, along with making Scott more money. Take the book Bunny Call with the story The Man in Room 1280, which I keep going back to. But this time, I'm talking about the story 1:35 AM from the book of the same name. This story revolves around Delia, who has recently gotten divorced from her husband, heartbroken because she never got the family that she wanted. She comes across a garage sale that has a doll that looked exactly like the daughter she had envisioned. She buys it and finds out that it's an alarm clock. Then, much like an actual baby, instead of waking her up when she wanted, she ends up getting woken up at 1:35 AM every morning. It gets so bad she runs away and hides in a factory ventilation shaft where she waits until she dies or suffocates. That's a really brief synopsis, but let's look at the parallels between Delia and Mrs. Afton, as well as Delia's story. Delia's parents died when she was young, so she was put into the foster care system where she was bounced around from family to family, but also was continuously abused. Eventually, she fell in love and was ready to start a family until her husband divorced her, which could be the case between William and his partner. We have no evidence as to what happened between them, so we can only speculate. Delia never managed to get the kids she wanted, and Mrs. Afton, assuming she was still alive, didn't get the kids in any form of divorce or court hearing, since we see the three of them living with William in FNAF 4 and Midnight Motorist. And then the surrogate daughter for Delia is a possessed doll. We learn she is possessed in another story where Phineas Taggart needs it to study agony, much like how William's daughter Elizabeth ends up possessing basically a giant robotic doll. The connection is somewhat loose, yes, but certainly more solid than Clara, since she was just talking to a purple-suited vampire about having his kid, and Vlad was denying it, despite it clearly being his, but still. Perhaps both of these stories combine together to create the story of Mrs. Afton. Not to mention the next story in that book is about the mini-Renas, who are meant to be Bellora's surrogate children. And who do people think that Bellora either represents or is possessed by? Mrs. Afton. Minute 10, the power of love. The immense agony generated when you hear me sing. The immense agony generated when you get killed is the fuel behind how possession works in the FNAF universe. This makes you think, if agony is the most powerful emotion in this world, what do the other emotions do? Or rather, where are the other emotions ranked? If agony lets you possess animatronics among other things upon death, what would emotions like anger and love do? And what is the second most powerful emotion? How far does it radiate? Do all emotions just allow you to possess things? Just other emotions are less likely to do so? Like, how does it work? I want to shout out the YouTube user that left the comments on this video that brought this to my attention, but I can't find that comment for a second time. So, I don't know if it was deleted, but if this was you who left the comment on the previous Tiny Details video, thank you so much. These things are getting really hard because I'm running out of details and I'm relying so much more on the comments section. So if you have any tiny details I have yet to talk about, please, I cannot stress this enough, leave it below. It doesn't even have to be, it doesn't even have to have like bigger implications. Okay, just something that's small, just please. Thank you for your help. And at 9, hiding place. Throughout Sister Location, we're constantly being talked to by Baby. At first, she wants to help us, at least it seems that way, and then we get scooped. But before that, she mentions that someone crafted one of the cupboards into a hiding place, but who did that? Was it one of the technicians? Was it the man from the Fazbear Frights book? I mean, I don't think it would have been because he kind of got stuffed with mini-Renas. And I mean, the technicians are killed at the end of the game, but were they freshly filleted or were they there the whole time, only being revealed when a light was shining on them? Who knows, really? Maybe it was Baby who made that hole so we would trust her, or maybe it was William hiding from the wrath of his daughter. I mean, she had to be mad at him, right? Why else would she be haunting him in Ultimate Custom Night? Sure, he regrets what happened, but she surely blames him for the situation that she's kind of stuck in. She was clearly in agony since, you know, she possessed Baby, and William was 100% avoiding her. I mean, you don't just get shut in a room and not be avoiding your daughter, right? Parents know. And today's Shadow Animatronics. The Shadow Animatronics really don't have an explanation, even after all these years. We still just have a couple of ideas as to what these are. Some think that Crying Child is Shadow Freddy, others think that they're employees that ended up getting killed, either by the animatronics, William, or the Springlock suits. Since the two Shadow Animatronics are Freddy and Bonnie, who we know have Springlock variants in the games thanks to the phone guy dialogue. But where did these Shadow Animatronics come from and where did they go? Cotton Eye Joe. Did we release them? Are they still after us? Were they ever really hostile? The whole Shadow Animatronic situation was kind of forgotten over the years, and while it may not be an important detail, it's still something I'm curious about and I still want to answer. It's a FNAF virus. We know that William is a virus at the moment. After dying in the man in room 1280, he possesses a hard drive that gets scanned into FNAF VR Help Wanted. We also know the virus gets uploaded to Special Delivery thanks to the Special Delivery emails and the aggressive nature of what was supposed to be nice animatronics. However, why did the virus get uploaded? Who uploaded it? Well, thanks to the emails we aren't supposed to see, we learned that Vanny, the antagonist of the upcoming Security Breach game, is the one who's uploaded the virus, and I mean it makes sense. She's a follower of Afton, even if it's reluctant. However, with the various versions of Springtrap in the game, could this virus be to blame for them? Especially Toxic Springtrap, who is the signature purple of the infamous purple guy who occupies the suit. Was Toxic Springtrap the original attempt to escape the video game world? I mean, the AR game is the closest we've gotten to having FNAF animatronics in real life, and Scott isn't one to be afraid of being meta. I mean, he was the final boss of FNAF World after all. So could William's real plan to be to escape into our world? And would that tie in with the new Joy of Creation Ignited collection that Scott is helping to fund? Since in that game you play as Scott Cawthon, and the animatronics are coming after you, in the real world. I don't know, it seems possible. And at 6, Ballora glasses. In the Fazbear Fright story of Room for One More, we see a girl steal a pair of glasses that show her a dancing Ballora when she puts them on. It starts off sweet, but as we know, these animatronics don't mess around. Eventually, Ballora starts getting closer, basically just coming in for a kill, and in an effort to atone, the girl returns the glasses to their owner, only to have her daughter get caught by Ballora. The actual story though isn't important, so if I messed it up, please forgive me. What I'm really looking at here are the glasses. These glasses help this girl see Ballora when nobody else can. And this reminds me of something that we've experienced in the games, the Nightmare animatronics. Could it be that instead of the illusion sound discs that we've been thinking caused the Nightmare animatronics, that it was actually these glasses? And yes, I said Nightmare sound discs intentionally because I saw a comment that said please say just illusion discs. So no. Illusion sound discs. You can't tell me what to do. Scott himself said that these stories would help us solve things from the games. So what if Crying Child was wearing these glasses and that's how he saw the nightmares? It would explain why he wouldn't call for help, because he knew that nobody else could see them, and I doubt that they would have put on the glasses if he had asked. Plus, it would also explain why Michael knows what the Nightmare animatronics look like as an alternate explanation to my he's a robot Crying Child theory, which I'm sure plenty of you want at this point. Halfway through and in number 5, Disassembled. In FNAF 1, we only had 5 animatronics to worry about, and no convoluted story. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Golden Freddy was our cast of characters, compared to the over 50 that appear in Ultimate Custom Night. However, even out of all 50 plus, Golden Freddy is still the most interesting and mysterious. In the first game, he had no endoskeleton. He seemed to just be a floppy suit with 2 glowing eyes that somehow was able to teleport through walls, and some believed to be able to cause hallucinations like the infamous "It's Me" text and "Eyeless Bonnie," along with changing posters on the wall and generating news articles that show us more lore. But how? And why? Why is he so limp? The amount of jokes I could make for that. Is his endoskeleton the one in the storage room, and why was it removed in the first place? Was it for cleaning or something? Because let's be honest, if the animatronics are leaking mucus and blood and smell like death and don't get washed, I doubt that they'll be cleaning Golden Freddy. Some think that it's because he caused the bite of 87, but there is evidence for other characters as well, and nothing has been confirmed. So, why? And at 4 glitch. Continuing on Golden Freddy, how does he have these powers? How can he move in and out of the office at will, basically moving through walls and causing weird hallucinations that give us issues for 7 years? Yet we still don't know how it's possible. This should, in reality, be incredibly hard to do, if not impossible, because even in the FNAF world, this kind of thing is hard. Is this what the other emotions can do, or is this agony stretching so far that they can move through solid objects and hide from our vision? Why have we not tried to figure this out? We kind of just accepted that he can do this, and then we moved on. Like, what the actual hell is this little freaking goddamn golden bear? Is he a bear? Yeah, he's a bear. Like, he can just come in and out whenever he wants, crash us to the desktop, and then laugh as we have to reboot it like he just loaded Skyrim for the 40,000th time without mods. Like, where did this man come from? And at 3, hallucinations. The hallucinations from FNAF 1 are their own story too. Where did they come from? Is it Golden Freddy? If it is, why do we need to see them, or why do we see them in the first place? Are they actual newspaper articles, or are we just fully hallucinating? Is this real life, or is this just a fantasy? Caught in a landslide, escape Golden Freddy. But seriously, why are we seeing these things other than it being important to the mystery of the game? Is there something more going on here that we haven't discovered yet? Is Golden Freddy the one changing these articles and posters, or are we somehow doing it ourselves? These hallucinations, or whatever they are, have some sort of explanation behind them. I just need to know what that explanation is. In a 2, Seen in the Shadows. During MatPat's Big FNAF livestream during the FNAF 4 days, he ended up getting clues from Scott Cawthon himself via the Scott Games or FNAF World website, I can't remember which one. One referencing Chica's beak, one talking about 4 games, 1 story, and then one saying what is seen in shadows is often misunderstood in the mind of a child. And since Scott has since debunked Dream Theory, what did this mean? Did he originally intend on Dream Theory being the correct answer, then changed his mind, because, you know, that's pretty Scott? Or is there still some validity to this clue that we haven't explored yet? I mean, we originally assumed it was the scene where Purple Guy puts a head on a coworker in a suit, but is this referencing something else now? Did Crying Child see Elizabeth get scooped in the shadows, making it really look like there was a stomach mouth and some weird alien tongue that grabbed her? Hence the stomach mouths on the Nightmare animatronics? Or did he just see it directly and that's why they're there, and this is referencing something completely different? I mean, it would make sense, but Sister Location hadn't come out yet, right? I don't know anymore. My brain hurts. Finally, in number 1, Henry's death. There are currently 2 deaths that we know of for the character we know as Henry. Once in the FNAF 6 fire, where he stays while it burns so nobody will remember this place, but also once in FNAF World, where he gets killed by Baby. However, if he died in the FNAF 6 fire along with Baby, how did he die in the FNAF World cutscene? There seems to be a simple explanation. Actually, they are the same thing. That room that Henry was in that cutscene must have been a room in the FNAF 6 building that we just didn't know about. Maybe the safe room that we heard so much about until FNAF 3 when we just forgot about it. That scene was basically a flash forward to the FNAF 6 location, even if we didn't know it at the time, where Baby kills Henry before they're both engulfed in flames. She either killed him due to rage or the fact that Henry called her Elizabeth. Or cut her off in the ending, because yeah, that would make me go nuts too.
I'm full.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Elizabeth, if you still even remember that name, but I'm afraid you've been misinformed.
And at 10, MatPat is canon, kinda. Thanks to the Fazbear Frights book Bunny Call, and more so the story in the flesh, MatPat is basically canon in the FNAF universe. Sure, it's kinda nuts that Scott wrote an MPreg fanfic about MatPat, but the crazier thing is that makes MatPat canon in the FNAF world. Technically, since the character's name isn't Matthew Patrick, and he's working on a new FNAF game and not a new FNAF theory, but he's MatPat's in-universe stand-in. While game theory or Dawko may not be canon, the essence of MatPat is, and he ended up getting killed by a plush trap baby that crawled its way out of his stomach. I haven't finished the story, mostly because I keep cringing so hard, but I don't understand how working on a video game turns into an animatronic crawling out of your stomach, killing you instantly. But hey, it's FNAF, and this is yet another instance of someone escaping from a game and entering the real world. However, this time it's Springtrap, which is a version of William Afton, so Joy. I guess he will be busting out of the game. And a 9 confirmation. The actual confirmed information we have about the FNAF series is limited. Basically, Scott has only said a few things are true and a few things are false. The rest of these theories about the timeline and the logbook are all based on other theories. Scott hasn't confirmed the name of Crying Child or the name of the Afton family mother. He hasn't even confirmed if William had a wife or if his kids are adopted. He hasn't confirmed if the logbook is possessed or if Michael is the brother. Those are still just theories, not fact. And people treating these theories as fact and hating on things that aren't exactly what MatPat has said is extremely misguided. I think you know where I'm going with this. Scott has confirmed that Springtrap is William. He's confirmed that Dream Theory, Foxy being kind, and the phone guy being William Afton or Purple Guy aren't true in the April Fool's mechanics for Fredbear, Foxy, and Phone Guy for Ultimate Custom Night. And he's confirmed that Sister Location takes place in 1983, but not Who Did the Bite of 87. He's also confirmed that Glitch Trap is William Afton using the Easter egg from Curse of Dreadbear, where Glitch Trap dances next to the FNAF 4 house in the distance, an Easter egg I showed off in our recent FNAF VR livestream. So stop coming to the comments of my theories saying that Michael can't possibly be the Crying Child because he's Foxy, bro. I said he was both, not one or the other. It's incredibly disrespectful to the research and effort I put into that video. It's just as valid a theory as anything MatPat suggests. Okay, rant over. Thank you for coming to my Fred Talk. And an 8 Phone Guy death. Phone Guy's death from the first FNAF game is ultra sus. Firstly, we hear banging on a closed door, something that only happens because of Foxy. But then we hear Freddy's theme, March of the Toreador. Then some groaning that's only given off by Bonnie and Chica, and then Golden Freddy's jump scare. Why all of this attention? Only on night 5 does it get this intense for the player, and the Phone Guy only has 4 nights, so why did this character come to such a horrific end? And who actually did the killing? We know that the Phone Guy thought he'd get stuffed into a suit, hence why he asked us to check them, or maybe he was planning on hiding in a suit to try to survive, since the main theory in this game is that they put you in a suit because you look like a naked endoskeleton and that's against company policy. But why would Golden Freddy have been the one to kill him? The other animatronics have priority while killing, at least mechanics wise, so why on earth is that happening in that room? Like, what's going on? I don't know. And at 7, Smiling Purple Guy. The first time we see the Purple Guy was in FNAF 2, and in the Foxy Go 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 minigame we see him sitting in the corner smiling. This is the Purple Guy, by the way, not some pink guy. Scott confirmed that in the minigame section of the Freddy Files book. But in that minigame we see the Purple Guy smiling while Foxy runs out to greet 5 dead kids. Why? This originally led us to believe that the Phone Guy was Purple Guy, since Phone Guy also says he loves Foxy and distrusts the puppet. But as I said earlier, this was confirmed not to be the case by Scott himself, so why is the Purple Guy smiling? Is it because William's favorite animatronic was Foxy as well? Or was it because he was happy about the killings, or seeing Foxy's reaction to it? Which wouldn't really make sense because these are animatronics, right? Or at this point maybe they were already possessed, which led to the child possessing Foxy to discover the 5 victims. And then maybe that gave William a sense of power, or he liked his reaction. I don't know. And at 6, FNAF Plus. The Fazbear Fanverse Initiative is a program created by Scott Cawthon that gives popular fan game creators the chance to have their games reach a wider audience and be backed by Scott Cawthon himself, helping them with merch, distribution, and console ports in some cases. However, one of the games in this program is FNAF Plus, a reimagining/fan remake of the first game, with new assets, new models, and coding. The trailers make it seem way more intense and scary than the original, and it has a lot of implications for this universe. First off, it's not the same Freddy's we know, but since games like Five Nights at Candy's have connections to the FNAF restaurant, they appear to need to have one to fill that story. So this is kinda pushing them away from the main FNAF canon. But it also has implications with one of the other games, Joy of Creation's Ignited Collection, since in Joy of Creation you play as Scott Cawthon, or the creator of the FNAF series, who's on the run from the animatronics, which makes me think that maybe this is the universe that Help Wanted was referring to when they said a rogue indie game dev created games to make fun of the situation. Maybe the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative games are those games, and this is the aftermath of the series ending? Halfway through, in at number 5, Multiverse. This also basically canonically inserts a FNAF multiverse into the franchise, which was already the case thanks to the several book series, but also opens the door to various other timelines. Like, what if what we've been seeing isn't one timeline, but multiple? And this means that, technically, every single FNAF theory has been correct in one universe. In one universe, Phone Guy is Purple Guy. In another, Scott Cawthon is the name of the indie game developer. In one universe, I am guaranteed to be right with my theories, but that also means that every single person, no matter how outlandish the theory is, will be right at some point. in one of the FNAF universes. And that's pretty cool, but also freaky. What if it's revealed that from FNAF 2 to now, all the games took place in the fanverse, since Freddy from FNAF 2, not Toy Freddy, but like normal Freddy, I guess normal, and the FNAF Plus Freddy look fairly similar. Uh-oh, I can feel the hate comments coming. And 4 hanging scientists. The sister location hanging scientists weren't there before they were revealed to us. It's meant to show us that Ennard is able to and willing to kill anything getting in his way. But that means that there were other people working there while we were there during sister location. I don't know why though, since it was literally filled with deadly animatronics. And the only reason we were sent there was to put her back together, like William had somehow asked us to do. But like, why were there others there? Was the business still running? Is that what Chica's Party World was? We know they were renting out animatronics, but why were there so many remaining? I thought they had stopped, especially when they were only used for one day. Like, I mean, we know why Baby wasn't rented, but the others? I don't know. It's weird, but I guess I'm not here to judge how someone runs their business. Getting close to the end in a number 3 8-bit canon. The 8-bit minigames are very confusing. Shout out to Tessa, one of our editors, for this idea. She edits most of the FNAF videos and apparently they make her want to play the game, so all I have to say is good luck. But she mentioned how weird these minigames are, and up until this point I did really forget about that. Having to glitch through a wall in order to give the spirit of a kid cake so that you can ultimately release all their souls in the real world to get the good ending. Like, what? That means that those 8-bit minigames have to be canon, but also real. Like, how do these games actually present themselves in real life? There's no way that we as Shadow Bonnie are just flying around breaking into pieces, or are they in their own universe and are able to cross over at will? And if we can do the same by playing these, does that mean we're dead as well? Oh wait, sorry, that works too much with my Michael is both Crying Child and Foxy Bro theory, so people are gonna get mad. I'll stop. Hashtag not salty. Not salty at all. Penultimately in a number 2, Forgetting Baby. One of Baby's most famous lines is, "I guess you forgot about me," which she says to William during Ultimate Custom Night. At least from my understanding it's a famous line, or an important one to say the least, since this implies a whole bunch of things right off the bat. Instantly we get confirmation that Elizabeth is William Afton's daughter, since she wouldn't be saying this to a complete stranger. I mean, I guess it was also confirmed that she was his daughter in sister location. When Michael said I did it, I put her back together. But like, more confirmation is always good. And as well, this proves that William just ditched his daughter. Sure, he didn't forget about her since he sent Michael to go and put her back together, but he also didn't go see her. He gets burnt in FNAF 6, but until that point he hadn't even been in the same room as his daughter. So she must be pretty pissed, hence why she's one of his enemies while in a coma. This could also mean that he regrets not being able to see her and that he actually does care about her, since these would all be manifestations of William's subconscious. Meaning that any theory about William hating his daughter because maybe she killed the mother during childbirth or something similar are confirmed wrong, since he clearly loved her and regrets what happened and how he couldn't see her. Finally, in a number 1, Fazbear Fright's Connection. The Fazbear Frights books have been the foundation for a load of FNAF theories as of late, mostly because we aren't getting to see any really new security breach trailers, probably up until the game actually drops at this point. But this ended up causing a lot of division in the community, since most people don't think the books have anything to do with the games, especially in the case of the original novels. However, I'd like to direct your attention to a post made by Scott Cawthon announcing the Fazbear Frights books, where he said that the books will help solve mysteries or issues we've had in the series. So it's 100% allowed to create a theory for the story of the games based on evidence from a Fazbear Frights book. Not only that, but while the games may not be directly connected to the original novels, they are from the same brain as the games, therefore will share similarities. So it's really just ignorant to disregard those as well. I'm gonna get hate for this video anyway, so I might as well say it. Thank you for coming to my Fred Talk number 2. And in 10, a gift to relish. What a gift to relish, a victim that can't perish, is one of Nightmare Freddy's voice lines in Ultimate Custom Night. However, we originally used this as a way to prove that William was in hell, but now, with the release of The Man in Room 1280 from Fazbear Fright's book In the Flesh, we know that William was only in a coma while this game was taking place, making this a subtle reference to how William always comes back, the soul of one of his victims that was keeping him alive in order for him to suffer, and now they could do that even more with him in a coma. Does this make the one who possessed him the one that you should not have killed? And if that is the case, and the one you should not have killed isn't Cassidy, who is it? And if Cassidy was the one that was keeping William alive, instead of 2 spirits possessing Golden Freddy, could it be 1 spirit possessing 2 things? A person and the suit. We know that the one you should not have killed is special and incredibly angry, so their agony would be extremely powerful, probably the most powerful. Could this be what Scott was hinting at this whole time? Probably not, if I'm being honest. And at 9, nothing to lose. The shadow fears me is one of Nightmare's ultimate custom night death lines. However, Nightmare is a representation of William's wickedness, and since William is the purple guy who is meant to represent a shadow, and Nightmare represents death, that would mean that William fears death, which makes sense, especially when 2 of his kids were killed by things he made. But what happens after he no longer feels that sense of horror, once he's accepted death? I mean, we see it happen in the Man in Room 1280, where he asks to be taken to a Fazbear warehouse so that he can die. So why is that meaningful? Because once you accept death as an inevitability, you have nothing to lose. And the scariest thing isn't animatronic murder or being eaten alive by nightmare versions of characters that used to be your friends, it's a man with nothing to lose, because no matter what, you can't get any lower. It's honestly one of the scariest things in life. And once William no longer feared death, he was able to ascend in a sense, transferring his consciousness into a hard drive and becoming basically immortal. So yeah, that's pretty damn terrifying. And it 8 speeches. Telling a story comes with its own pressures and expectations. Mr. Hippo here is right, it does. We expect everything to lead somewhere, every tiny detail to mean something, and if it doesn't, we feel kinda robbed, I guess. But we're going to nitpick the hell out of these speeches, so I guess we haven't learned our lesson, have we? Why are these speeches about telling stories? Mr. Hippo, in my opinion, is Scott's stand-in in game. He uses Mr. Hippo to speak to us, and more or less MatPat, about trying to find every little detail in the series to find out the whole story. And honestly, we already knew that. But he keeps saying that not everything has meaning, and that there's no bigger story. What if that's true? What if there is no bigger story here, and we're just connecting things that don't actually connect? Each game could be its own universe for all we know, and Scott could just be telling us outright through these speeches. He also says something that I've been saying for a while, that we shouldn't believe every theory we hear, or treat them as fact and start assuming, because we may assume the wrong thing, which is what I've been saying whenever someone says that one of my theories isn't right, because another theory has proved me wrong. Like, they're both just theories. Game theories. And we should just enjoy the series. And that's what Mr. Hippo is trying to say too. Maybe Mr. Hippo is supposed to be me. And it's 7, corruption. The ultimate custom night voice lines are very useful for these lists. And while going over all of them, I noticed a distinct difference between pre and post FNAF 6 animatronics, particularly from Baby and the Puppet, since those are the only ones that were in both. Since the normal versions of both Baby and the Puppet say things like, "Seeing you powerless is like music to me," and "I guess you forgot about me." But as soon as we get to the FNAF 6 scrapped and trapped versions, we get things that are much darker, with lines like, "Time for your controlled shock," and "Let's see how many pieces I can cut you into from Scrap Baby," and "I've been looking for you, and now I will never let you go," along with "It will all be over soon" from Lefty, which is Charlotte's voice, but softer, calmer, and whispering, which makes it hella creepy. Considering how even though these kids are dead, they're still relatively positive about William's undoing, so much so that they can stay relatively positive and upbeat. But once he's escaped so many times, they finally break and start losing their optimism, resulting in darker views and more aggressive death lines, which is honestly one of the darker things in the series to me. These kids get corrupted even after being optimistic after their death, which is horrifying to see. And once you notice, you can't unsee it. That's really sad. And in 6, Markiplier could be canon. Did everyone else forget that Markiplier was in the launch trailer for Special Delivery, or was it just me? Because while reading up on the game looking for clues, it was listed right there in the trivia section. However, apparently it's unknown to even Markiplier himself if his inclusion in the trailer makes him canon. However, this would make him canon in my mind. Since Scott has made MatPat canon, I'm sure Markiplier's inclusion makes him canon as well. So yeah, we're all out here thinking that MatPat's canonicity could mean plenty of things for the series, but Markiplier is canon too. But that begs the question, who is he? Obviously he isn't the YouTuber Markiplier since he's working for the Fazbear Entertainment Company, but he has to be someone, right? Well, this may be a wild theory, but hear me out. What if he's William Afton? The guy is wearing a suit with a red cracked tie and is frequently placed in front of blue and purple backgrounds. Not only that, but he is also the last person we see before we see the first animatronic in the trailer, Springtrap. I know that at this point in the timeline, William Afton would be dead and possessing Vanny, but what if he recorded all of this beforehand? What if he had planned for all of this before the spring locking? It's doubtful, but a possibility. This could also be Markiplier playing Michael Afton, who could have been asked to film this while working at one of the previous locations since he looked so much like his father. But remember, before being cut off by a glitch, Markiplier says, "We're always watching out for you." And the first line William says in the trailer, "I'm watching you." Halfway through number 5, Special Delivery Game. We know that Scott's in-universe stand-in created games based on the events in the Fazbear restaurants, but we don't know what those games are. Some think the 8-bit mini-games, others think the FNAF 6 mini-games. I think it could be Security Breach, but what about Special Delivery? Well, we learn in Fazbear Frights the Man in Room 1280 that everyone knows what William did, and they hate him for it. So much so that they actually try to smother him while he's in a coma in the hospital. So why would they sell a Springtrap mini pack for 2.5 thousand Faz coins in Special Delivery? Isn't that just sensationalizing the guy that killed all those kids? Cause like, this pack gives the player a Springtrap plush suit for Endo, 3 Springtrap lures, and nobody seems to bat an eye. They even include other versions of Springtrap, like the poison one, who's purple for God's sake. So why on earth would that happen? Why would Fazbear Entertainment let that happen, especially if they were trying to rebuild their rep? If these are meant to be real animatronics going to people's houses, that's a horrible idea. However, they aren't. It's simply a game that was made by Scott Cawthon in-universe, meant to sensationalize and earn money off multiple tragedies. That's pretty messed up if you ask me. Also, I know it's not Scott, it's just he used his picture, but like, he has no name yet, so I'm calling him Scott, okay? And at 4, who is Vanny? We know that the main antagonist of the next game, Security Breach, will be Vanny, the reluctant follower of William Afton, whose normal version is most likely Vanessa, the security guard from promotional material. However, how did Vanny get possessed? Was she originally Tape Girl? Because if she was, why are the pieces of Glitch Trap still separated in FNAF VR? In Help Wanted, we need to collect all 16 tapes in order for Glitch Trap to attack us, so we can potentially beat the game by losing to him. So if Tape Girl had already done that, or tried to at least, why are those tapes still separate? Wouldn't they still be together in the tape room? It's not like William would have made her split them up again, or even let her do that if she tried. So who does that leave? Us. We're the ones who collect the tapes. We're the ones who lose to Glitch Trap. And no matter what you identify as, you aren't yourself in that game. You're whoever is testing the game. It's not going to be you yourself. It's going to be the protagonist that Scott intended. And who is that? Vanny. We are Vanessa. We get possessed, and now we need to help ourselves break free of William's control in the next game. Things are about to get messy, and I'm saying that about FNAF. So you know that this is going to be a show. It's already messy now. Oh, just you wait. And at 3, Lefty. Lefty, as we know, is an acronym for an animatronic meant to lure, encapsulate, fuse, transport, and extract the puppet and bring it to the FNAF 6 location. However, thanks to Ultimate Custom Night, we now know that there is room for more than just the puppet inside of Lefty, since when killed by Lefty, you can hear it say things like, "Shh, there is room for one more," and "come spend eternity inside with me," along with "I'm so glad I found you, now let me make some room for you," which heavily indicates that maybe Lefty was also meant to capture William if he didn't make his way back on his own, since the order of salvaging is Molten Freddy, Scrap Trap, Scrap Baby, and then Lefty. So Henry could have just sent Lefty a command to come back once he got word that William had been salvaged, since Michael would have had to let him know as instructed in paragraph 4 of his contract. So Lefty could have been made to get both the puppet, also known as Charlotte, and William, forcing William to confront one of his first victims, and the one that started his undoing. Another one that he should not have killed, dare I say. Another one, not the actual one, chill out. Penultimately, in at number 2, Canon. Nightmare On was added in FNAF 4's Halloween DLC, along with Night Mangle and Nightmare Balloon Boy. Night Mangle's my version of Nightmare Mangle. However, Scott only deemed Nightmare Balloon Boy canon. The other 2 were labeled as non-canon. But if that's truly the case, why does Nightmare On show up in Ultimate Custom Night? Same thing with Nightmare Mangle. Why are these characters included in Ultimate Custom Night if they weren't meant to actually have these characters in universe? This doesn't really make sense to me, since this was a big help with MatPat determining the timeline, since we knew that in FNAF 4 Crying Child didn't know who the puppet or Mangle was yet, and because, you know, FNAF 2 location. But now they're fully canon? Or was it just that he saw them but didn't know why? And from that, this opens up so many doors and questions. Was it really Crying Child's mind that caused these hallucinations, or did William design them? If he did, why did he add stomach mouths? And why include animatronics your kid hasn't even seen yet, or may not even exist yet? Why is this a thing? Okay, how can this work with the way that we currently understand the timeline? We don't even understand the timeline. Are these characters canon, or when they were added, was it a glimpse into the future? Is this the start of the multiverse? I can't do this anymore. Finally, in at number 1, game theory is canon. A huge shout out to the user SockGems in the comments of the last part of this list for this little Easter egg. While I talked about MatPat being canon in the series last time, SockGems pointed out that he already was thanks to Fetch, the first book in the series. Since a classmate says the signature line of "that's just a theory," and the book says that he said it just like his favorite YouTuber. That means that even before In the Flesh, the YouTube channel of Game Theory was canon, and that means he's making theories about video games. And since we know that there are video games about what took place at Fazbear restaurants in the FNAF universe, does that mean that MatPat in that universe is making theories about the in-universe FNAF games, like how he makes theories about the FNAF universe in the real world? Because that's a mind that I was not expecting. And since I've only read the book In the Flesh, I did not know about this. So thank you, SockGems. And I love the name, by the way. And at 10, Endoskeleton. The excuse we get in the original FNAF game as to why the animatronics are attacking us is because we look like a naked endoskeleton, and they want to put us in a suit because it's against company policy. First of all, why would you program animatronics in a pizzeria to try and enforce company policy, especially at night? And why would they directly come after us, if that's the excuse? Like, why would they come all the way to the security room? But the main issue is, why aren't they attacking the naked endoskeleton, sometimes visible in the storage room? Bonnie will sometimes even go into the storeroom while the endoskeleton is in there, but nothing. Why is it that it will attack us, but not it? It's also violating company policy, isn't it? I mean, maybe because it's in the storage room it's fine, but then again, why wouldn't we make our way there because it would be safe, and why wouldn't they tell us about that? The explanation we came up with is because we look like William Afton since we think we play as Michael. But if we go off my theory that we play as Henry since Michael may not have been old enough, that doesn't make sense. Plus, even if it's because we look like William, that doesn't explain. And at number 9, why Phone Guy? If the animatronics are really after us because we look like the man who killed them, why do they attack Phone Guy? And why do they kill him on night 4? This is what originally made us think that Purple Guy was the Phone Guy, since this seems to mimic what we see in the FNAF 3 minigames where we see William get spring-locked. But Scott confirmed that that wasn't true in the Ultimate Custom Night April Fool's update, so why did they attack Phone Guy? Is Phone Guy actually Michael Afton and he doesn't actually die? Or do the animatronics get some form of code update before we become the Night Guard so they aren't attacking because we look like an endoskeleton in an effort to avoid what happened to Phone Guy happening again? Because a lot of good that did. You went and hired someone who looked exactly like their killer. Smooth move, bro. And at 8, how did Baby get ejected? So we know that between the events of Sister Location and FNAF 6 that Baby and the rest of Ennard get into a lover's spat and then Baby gets kicked out of Ennard. But like, how does that work, really? They were all tangled together, right? So did they just remove the parts that were Baby and then kick her to the curb? Or did they just remove her soul and place it into another endoskeleton? If they did that, how did that work? Like, how did the actual process of ejecting work? It's really confusing to me because she ends up getting a whole new body and Molten Freddy is left as basically a puddle of parts, but then he grabs a Freddy face and calls it okay. Like, what the hell happened for that to work? It's so confusing and it's unexplained, it's mysterious. I know that they had a fight and I know that she got kicked out, but how did they actually physically remove her from the Ennard tribe, I guess? Scott, explain! What do you mean it's Arkansas? And at 7, Lorekeeper ending. I talked about the FNAF 2 minigames in another video or list, but what I'm really wondering now is about the FNAF 6 minigames, Fruity Maze, Security Puppet, and Midnight Motorist. These games, while not a big part of the game, are required to be beaten for the Lorekeeper ending, meaning that they would have lore significance. I mean, they obviously do, because we learn a lot from them, but how and why are these secrets hidden inside? The fruity maze ends up gory and trailing blood, with William Afton and presumably Susie in the reflection. But like, how can we see the reflection if we're the ones playing? Security Puppet recounts the origin of the puppet and how Henry's daughter Charlotte died. And Midnight Motorist recounts later that night after William had killed Charlotte and returns home. But how did these little secrets get put into the game? Was it Henry? Was it someone who knew the story of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza? Are these the games that were made by a rogue indie game developer? And are these games even real? Or are these sections just hallucinations or memories and they don't actually exist within the game? Are we just having flashbacks or is this all real time? I don't know. And it scares me. And at 6, why is Purple Guy smiling? The Foxy Go 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 mini game was another piece of evidence for the Phone Guy is Purple Guy theory, since Phone Guy loves Foxy, and in this game we can see Foxy run out to a group of dead kids where Purple Guy is smiling beforehand. But since we know Purple Guy isn't the Phone Guy, why is he smiling? Is it a coincidence and he likes Foxy too? Like, Scott wouldn't do that, right? Or is it just that William is pleased with watching Foxy find another set of missing kids? There is no clear-cut answer anymore, and that's just honestly concerning. Like, there has to be a reason, right? Or is this just so old now that we can or have to ignore it? Since Scott knows the story he wants to tell now, like MatPat said in his video about the full timeline. Or is this still of significance that we need to keep in mind when looking at everything in the future? Is it because Foxy was the last of the 5 missing kids to die, so William had developed a style and had gotten comfortable at that point, so he was proud of it? Were those 5 kids killed in the same way that Fritz, the spirit that possesses Foxy, was? I don't know. Halfway through number 5, where's the puppet? The animatronic known as Lefty was designed as a mechanism to capture the puppet, and does so prior to its appearance in FNAF 6. However, when Lefty jump scares you in both FNAF 6 and Ultimate Custom Night, we can't seem to see the rest of the puppet inside Lefty other than the arms. Realistically, the puppet's face should be in Lefty's head, but it's not. In fact, Lefty has something blocking the bottom of its head, like, you know, the rest of its skull, making it separate and a sealed piece. So, what the hell? Where did the rest of the puppet go? Is it inside the body compressed? Because the proportions, if it's not compressed, are all wrong, unless it got damaged in the FNAF 3 fire, which caused it to shrivel, since we know that the puppet was there. Which would have been a terrifying animatronic, so it sucks that we didn't get to see that. But still, I doubt Henry would have let his daughter's vessel get compressed inside of Lefty. So what the hell is going on here, and where's the rest of the puppet? And at 4, what brought him back? We all know that William makes his way to the FNAF 6 location first out of all the animatronics, but how? It's not like he got an email saying, "Hey, my old pal William, how about you come to this new Fazbear location that your kid opened? It's gonna have plenty of potential victims." And he didn't get a flyer sent to him, so how was he called back to this location? How were any of them called back, really? I know that he could have brought Lefty back because he had programmed her, but what made William, Molten Freddy, and Baby come back? Was it similar to the green bracelet for the puppet? Or was it playing those sounds like in FNAF 3 or in the vents in this game? How close did they have to be for them to hear it? Is it some sort of circuit thing that he could activate inside the animatronics with a remote? We don't know, and I really want to. Getting close to the end in number 3, investigation. I talked about the police and how nobody seemed to bat an eye in a previous part, but I want to be more specific and find the real reason the police didn't investigate more. We know they did investigate thanks to the phone guy calls and Juniors from Midnight Motorist, but why didn't they investigate the smelly, oozing animatronics? The bodies were in there and they would know to investigate, especially when the place got shut down because the animatronics started oozing and leaking mucus and blood. Blood! How do you not look into that? Are you telling me there wasn't one single cop who didn't find that suspicious? There is no way the cops would have put 5 missing children's cases to bed that quickly. Yeah, the first 48 hours of a murder investigation are the most crucial, same thing with missing persons, but they don't usually give up after those 2 days. It's so weird and it makes me think that William had to have someone in his pocket. That's the only really questionable thing that I'm really stuck on. Like, why didn't they check the bloody suits? It makes 0 sense from any perspective. And at 2, in-universe games. Thanks to Help Wanted, we learned about a series of games that were made by an in-universe version of Scott Cawthon. This guy supposedly made the games out of the situation and ruined the reputation of the company. However, we then hear Tape Girl say that Fazbear Entertainment paid Scott to make these games. But we've heard so much about these games, but don't know what these games are. Some people think that it's the FNAF 2 minigames, others think the FNAF 6 minigames. There is a possibility that Security Breach is one of them, or FNAF AR, but we don't have a serious answer. Nothing is confirmed, and it's a big issue. Also, I know that it's not actually Scott, but he doesn't have a name yet, so I'm just gonna call him Scott. He used his own picture, it's what he gets. What do you think the in-universe games are? Do you think that we've seen them, or do you think we have yet to find one in-game? Let me know below, because I'm very confused and might need some help. Finally, in at number 1, Glitch Trap. Glitch Trap is the main antagonist of Help Wanted, and is William Afton's consciousness in the form of computer code, thanks to his agony allowing him to possess a hard drive at the end of the Man in Room 1280 from the Fazbear Frights book in the flesh, that then gets scanned to help make the AI in Help Wanted. But he was never meant to be in the game. However, for someone who was never meant to be in the game, he has a huge impact on the final minigame. He doesn't make any appearances in other games, but he shows up in Pizza Party at the final scene, and is present while we were all inside the Fazbear costume. He dances on the floor in front of us while we're stuck singing a song. But how is he able to do that? How does he open the curtain? How does he put us in the suit and then dance around happy that he did it? He wasn't meant to exist, so how can he interact with a virtual world? We can't even move the curtain if we manage to break the boundaries and touch it, so if our hands pass through it, why don't his? We were meant to be in the game. He wasn't. And how is he able to make a whole stage for himself when he attacks us? It doesn't make any sense, unless he was meant to exist in the first place. In at 10, Freddy, the Red Nose Jump Scare. In FNAF VR, it is actually possible to be jump scared by a random animatronic that you can't see coming while you're in the main room that you started in the Pizza Party minigame. It appears to be a version of Freddy with glowing red bottom teeth and what look like nostrils to me, but most people are saying eyes. But like glowing in the Photoshop sense, like they only have their outline glowing instead of being bright white on the inside and then glowing outward. It's like when you add a glow to the outside of something. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, just trust me, I literally went to school for Photoshop. And I make most of the gaming thumbnails. Recently I've been making like all of them, so yeah. I don't know what animatronic this is meant to be, but based on the teeth, it isn't Freddy because he has individual teeth. And it can't be Chica because the mouth shape isn't right, and the nostrils. It's not Bonnie or Foxy either. I really don't know who this could be, but now that I think about it, those are probably eyes. I just like the idea of big gaping nostrils, just like jump scaring you. And at 9, FNAF 3 Puppet. While we all know the puppet for being present in FNAF 2 and also appearing as hallucinations or a minigame character in FNAF 3, you can actually spawn him on the camera. While sometimes you can see the reflection of the puppet's legs in one of the cameras, you can also see what looks to be actual puppet parts in Cam 8 in FNAF 3. While sometimes in that same camera you can hallucinate the puppet, if you look just beside the Camera 9's box, you can see something that looks to be a mask, with streaks coming out of the eyes and a mouth just below. This could be the puppet, or just a coincidence. Or maybe it's something else that nobody has really cared enough to look into. I think it's the puppet personally. Maybe not a working puppet, but a puppet figure nonetheless. And at 8, Chewing Gum. Chewing gum recently became a big thing in the FNAF series, only to serve as justification as to the links between two characters. But either way, it's still canon that Michael Afton loves to chew gum. So much so that he actually writes about it in the survival logbook and says that he wants to knock the bad habit. Yeah, it was never demonstrated in the games, and was kind of dismissed in the survival logbook until the latest Fazbear Frights book was released, called Step Closer. That proved who the character of Michael Afton was meant to be, the big brother from FNAF 4, the one who was endearingly called Foxy Bro by MatPat and I'm sure others. This was the only reason that detail was included, to link him to another character. It was never shown in game, not even indicated. During Immortal and the Restless, he would just sit there eating popcorn and he wouldn't have gum anywhere in sight. I mean, I'm sure this wasn't established yet and Scott didn't think of it, but come on! Imagine if this had been right in front of us the whole time. That would have been so good. Scott, update sister location. And it's 7, Realistic Baby. Continuing on about the books and their connections to the games, Baby could very well be a realistic version of Henry's dead daughter Charlotte who goes on to possess the puppet, which would totally be weird because Baby was also possessed by Elizabeth Afton. In the final FNAF novel, The Fourth Closet, which is the final novel, the rest are collections of short stories, it's revealed that the main character of Charlie is the last in a series of robots meant to recreate Henry's daughter who was killed at the age of 3. This character is also revealed to be the baby animatronic that can switch between looking hyper-realistic like a normal human, to the normal circus baby we all know and love, with the use of small pins with balls on the ends. And what do we see the circus baby model in the FNAF games? Small pins with balls on the ends. This is something incredibly interesting and revolutionary to the story of the games, but not in like a lore-breaking kind of way. It just shows that baby could look like whoever she wanted to be, and perhaps that's why she led Ennard. But after she couldn't do it anymore because she lost the pins, she was kicked out. I don't know, it's just a theory. A circus baby theory! I blew out the mic. And at 6, grandfather clock. Every FNAF game until Sister Location, you needed to survive until 6 AM. Doing so would have you complete the night and move on to the next one. However, when you complete a night and make it to 6 AM, you get notified by a grandfather clock. Obviously, most of us were just so relieved to survive that we didn't pay attention to it, but looking back, why would an alarm at the end of our shift be a grandfather clock? It could be perhaps because everything is just a dream, or maybe we have a custom alarm tone on our phone. I know you can customize ringtones on phones, so perhaps that's why. I mean, you could argue that these games take place before cell phones were common, especially smartphones, but FNAF 3 would for sure take place in an era where phones were common. And Fazbear Entertainment has always been established as a company with technology far beyond its time, so perhaps we can say the same thing for this whole universe. You know, the universe of FNAF has a whole bunch of high-tech tech earlier than it's supposed to. Halfway through at number 5, you won't get tired, will you? In Ultimate Custom Night, the 7th FNAF game, there are a whole bunch of voiced lines that play after you die, depending on the character that killed you. You can get a range from long-winded stories dedicated to MagPat, to lines basically damning you and criticizing you for killing a baker's dozen of kids. Rightfully so, but for me, they're all brave. However, there is one line that would stick out to those who played FNAF World, at least through Update 1.2 when Foxy Fighters got added, where Toy Chica said, "You won't get tired of my voice, will you?" Well, it depends. If you keep talking like that, yes. If you take off your beak, also yes. Oh wait, I guess it doesn't really depend. In Ultimate Custom Night, if Toy Chica kills you, you can potentially hear her say, "You won't get tired of dying, will you?" Which is both a reference and serves as indication that we're trapped here and we'll keep dying over and over again. Fun! If Toy Chica is there, I don't know if it's hell or heaven. No, it's definitely hell. I'm not Eddie. Hey, mommy. And at 4, a child. Bachelor number 1. The child eating, capturing, and torturing killing machine that won the last round of the killing floor. However, for those of you who didn't already know, and I'm sure there's at least a couple of you, the body of Funtime Freddy does indeed contain a child, as evidenced by the wireframe blueprint where we literally see a child inside of his containment chamber. I don't know if that kid is dead or alive, but based on the lack of oxygen, I'm guessing he's dead because, you know, lack of oxygen. But yeah, in case you didn't know, there is literally a dead kid inside of Funtime Freddy. Do with that what you will. And at 3, it's me. Hey look, I rhymed. There is one FNAF VR Easter egg that we haven't found yet, but there is also a FNAF VR Easter egg that very few have found. The one only a few have found is the It's Me Easter egg from the Curse of Dreadbear DLC, where if you manage to get 3 clown posters in the Victory Barn and then hit them all with a dart, the barn flips into blacklight rave mode and the banner switches from saying "You win" to "It's me" in reference to Golden Freddy. We don't know what this could mean. Hell, it could mean that we're still playing as Michael Afton somehow. But it's also weird because currently Golden Freddy is down in hell with William, torturing him for eternity, so it's unclear as to why this is possible, but it happened nonetheless. At least if we can believe the few videos that are out there. You say Donko found it, but I've seen no video, okay? So, pics or it didn't happen. I need to go back live stream searching for this, though. Like, I need to know if it's true. Based on my own experiences. You know, that's the only way we can really know, right? And ultimately, in at number 2, Help Wanted. During an interview around a month or so ago, a representative from Steelwool Studios said that there was a detail or Easter egg in Help Wanted that hasn't been found. I literally mentioned it last number. With the experience the fans have to tearing these games to shreds, it's almost impressive that we don't know where this could possibly be. We've torn the game to bits, we've boundary broke and data mined, but we still missed it? The interview reads, quote, "The FNAF fandom is keen at finding hidden secrets in every Five Nights at Freddy's game, but is there something in Help Wanted that the fans haven't found yet? Yes. Oh, did you expect me to say it? No dice." The same interview, the infamous box was mentioned yet again. Could the two be connected? And where could the secret be hiding? Perhaps in the DLC? Curse of Dreadbear was packed with all kinds of Easter eggs and secrets. Could it have been there? Perhaps in the hallway minigame? Or maybe we're looking in the wrong place? Let me know your theories down below, and let Matt Pat know about this, and if he doesn't know already. We all need to put our heads together for this. But like, with reasonable social distancing and wearing masks, obviously. Put our heads together 6 feet apart, or more. Finally, in number 1, the rules. Thank you to Maggie Shannon on yesterday's community post for pointing this out to me as I was scrolling through the comments. The rules for safety in the Fazbear establishments are simple. They appear on posters in the first FNAF game, and they read as follows. 1. Don't run. 2. Don't yell. 3. Don't scream. These seem pretty reasonable, right? Even if 2 and 3 are basically the same thing. But rule 4 is where it gets weird, so I'll save that for last. 5. Stay close to mom. 6. Don't touch Freddy. 7. Don't hit. 8. Leave before dark. I would just take it as leave before closing. Rule number 4 is honestly the weirdest thing and is honestly scary when you think about why they would need this rule. Rule number 4 is don't poop on the floor. I'm being totally honest, you can look at it in-game. Management even thanks you at the end of the sign. The FNAF fandom page has better rules than this. Hell, even most subreddits have better rules than Freddy Fazbear's. And we were all wondering why Afton was killing kids, because there literally has to be a rule about not taking a wicked growler on the floor. Because if I was to do that, I'd be violating at least 3 rules. 4, 2, and 3. I didn't want to have to put it out with my fingers, because I would have failed that massively. 4, 2, and 3. No, can't do it.